Right now, I'm going to ask the board that we motion that we open the meeting for February 27th. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we open the February 27th, 2012 meeting of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're going to introduce our panel. We have, my name first is Curtis Highsmith. I am your chair. We introduce Ham Hogue, Christina Redding, Brian Brady. We'd like to welcome Zach Studenroth, our historic consultant, our legal counsel, Bo Robinson, and as always, Antoinette, we appreciate you being here. I know it doesn't mention this on the agenda for this evening, but we do have an application for Town and Country. If we'll just ask for Town and Country to please appear. Is the applicant present? Your name for the
Cullum.
record, please, sir.
William Cullum.
Mr. Cullen, we just had some questions with regards to the sign positioning as well as whether it's being lit. And the obvious, I think some board members had question just as to the color itself, whether that's part of its corporate identity.
It is. And that's also, every other town has passed these signs that we presented to you last week. But I know we had a problem with the wording, so we reduced the wording and changed it to real estate. And it is, the color is a dark green. It's pretty standard. It's nothing out of the ordinary. And it is the corporate color that they're going with in all the other village and towns.
Okay, so you've condensed all of the other promotion and
Yes.
just eliminated just to real estate, correct?
Yes.
Christine, any comments?
No, would have been nice to have a sample of the color, but I guess that's pretty true to the color.
Yes.
Okay.
Brian, any comments?
No, I think it's fine.
Pam, any comments?
No, it's appropriate.
Any public comment on the application? So this is on 3 locations of the building, correct?
Yes.
2 parking lots and 1 on Hampton.
Yeah, and one in the back, so it's 4 locations.
4 locations. Okay. Motion to approve?
Do you want me to say 3 signs?
It's 4.
It's 4?
It's 4.
I make a motion that we approve the 4 signs for Town and Country Real Estate on Hampton Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chair, next application is Douglas, excuse me, Douglas Elliman.
Is the applicant present?
Yes. Hello, Rafaela Victor.
Okay. Obviously, you've gone through a corporate change in name. The awning is existing, or?
The new awning is now affixed. It's existing, yes.
Okay, you just didn't go through the proper channels to get it approved first.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Oh, well, I don't know if we did initially, but I think we did after.
You are now.
You are now. That's
We are
what it
now.
is.
Okay, good.
Christine, any comments?
No, that's good.
Brian?
So they took off the phone number and everything? Yeah, that's
Yes.
fine.
They simplified, it's good.
Is there any public comment on the application? Thank you for removing the telephone number and all of the other stuff. Motion to approve?
I make a motion we approve the sign on Job's Lane, 2 storefront signs and changes to the existing awning for Douglas Elliman Real Estate.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Have
very
a good
much.
evening.
Appreciate it.
Next application, Mr. Chair, is for Patricia O'Neill. It's an architect sign, appears to be a multiple sign.
Your name for the record, please.
Tricia O'Neill.
Okay, so what you're doing is consolidating 2 services on the one sign?
Yes.
Pam, comments?
Is this for your office?
No, it's a temporary sign for a
job sign.
construction site.
Right, and it's on a pillar and post, a little over the top,
Oh.
I think, because it's saying a new residence on Burnett Street, Southampton.
Oh.
Says architect, and usually what we prefer is a simplified version
Okay.
for an architect and for a builder.
Sure.
Christine?
But the other members may have a,
Yeah. I mean, is it a spec house that's for sale, or?
No, it's just a new residence. We're here tonight for the application.
Oh, so
It's a
this
contractor
is the
sign for the,
It's a contractor sign.
Yes,
yes.
yes.
It's temporary.
It's
so-
temporary,
Need
just
any
during
of that
construction, and we just
Address
wanted,
and stuff.
if,
I don't think we
People-
need the address and a new residence.
Okay.
I just think we need architect and contractor.
Any issue with regards to the pillar, paneling underneath,
Well, it kind of
the
seems
decorative style of the,
very elaborate for more elaborate than we're used to.
Brian?
Yeah, I agree for a temporary sign.
Okay.
It looks a little too permanent.
We typically, I don't know if you've driven through the village and seen some of the other, I'm sure there's much new construction
It
going
is
on.
nice, though.
It's a beautiful sign if it was located in front of a office building, which is obviously not the case. It looks a little busy. I think you're stating the obvious. It's a new residence. I
Okay.
think everyone can see that. It's not necessary to document that, nor is the address itself, unless this is the sign that will be located as your primary sign for the property.
no, no, it's not
Okay.
intended for that.
So we normally typically ask that any Vindy that's performing, whether it be the architecture or the the contractor, has his own individual sign that's stationed on the property. It's temporary. It's usually in a very temporary post as well.
Okay, we thought I've never done one in this village, and I just thought it would have more of a residential look, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay. So at this time, we don't have a vote before this board.
Understood.
Do you want this board to adjourn till our next meeting, where you can revise and maybe?
I'll revise and resubmit.
Very good.
I was just gonna make one suggestion, Mr. Chair. If she does without the pillar and the post and takes off the verbiage and just simply puts your name and then the joint sign with the.
I would
logo.
want to see a new font.
You would?
New
I'll
vendor.
revise and resubmit.
Any questions for the board? No. Any public comment? All right, so we'll wait for that revision, and you're requesting the board to adjourn at this time, correct? Yes. Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn.
I make a motion that we approve the applicant Patricia O'Neill's request to adjourn her sign application.
Second.
Until our next meeting.
What?
Until our next meeting.
Until our next meeting.
It's
Sorry.
been second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next application, please.
Mr. Chair, Halsted Property, 31 Main Street for storefront sign.
Hi,
Aye.
Nancy Hardy.
Hey, Nancy.
Nancy, is there a swatch or rendering of?
That's pretty
example?
close to the
So
color.
this
That's
is
the
pretty
corporate
close.
color.
And this is also the font as well as the, correct?
Yes.
Ham, any comments?
No.
Christine?
I think it's very tasteful.
Brian?
No, it's fine.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve the storefront sign application for Holstead Property at 31 Main Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Next application, please.
Bookhampton, 16 Hampton Road.
Stacy Menzer from Ocean Graphics Hampton Signs.
You gonna hang this right on the tree? I know you couldn't get behind it. I'm just joking. I don't have any issue. Ham?
No.
Christine?
Lovely.
Brian?
Nope. Can't
Any
see
public
it.
comment on the application? Motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve the storefront application for Bookhampton at 16 Hampton Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next application, please.
Next application is Sherry's Place at 29 Main Street.
Stacy Menzer, Hampton Signs, Ocean Graphics.
Sherry's Place. No lanterns are existing, correct?
No.
They're not. You're proposing the lanterns too? The lanterns are existing?
I believe that they must be existing, yeah.
Ham?
No. I'm good.
Christine?
Oh, I like that. Is
Brian?
that going to be a clothing store?
Oh,
I believe so.
think you have a customer.
Yes, it's fine.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
I make a motion we approve the storefront sign for Sherry's Place at 29 Main Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next application.
Next
Thank you.
application, Mr. Chair, is Vital Habitats for a contractor sign.
Hi. Kimberly Eads.
I'm sorry?
Kimberly Eads.
Okay. This is a contractor sign on property that's currently being worked on, correct?
Correct.
This is the correct font as well as color?
Yes.
Do you have a swatch or sample of the actual color?
No, I don't.
Construction management, the art of building. I don't know if you heard some of the comments before and some of the comments in prior meetings, but we try to tame down our signs in the village, that they're not too billboardish. They state the name of the company, obviously give resources for an individual to contact you, whether it be a phone number or a email. The phrases and the logos, we try to tame those down within the village itself. Can't say that some haven't gone through, but they haven't been approved by this board.
Okay.
Ham, do you have any issue with the sign?
I think simple is better. Otherwise, it gets very cloudy in the village. I think construction management is fine. I think your telephone number, your website, and the name, but I would get rid of the logo and the art of building down to a science and just make it simple. It's for notification of people that are trying to get to the job site. It's not a billboard.
Christine?
Yes, I mean, I like the logo and I like the font, but I don't think we need all this stuff.
I agree.
So what do you want to keep it at? Vital Habitat, the phone number and the website?
Yeah, and I think construction management's okay, because the name Vital Habitats could be
I'm
confusing.
fine with that.
Okay, so if we were to approve it this evening, it would be to remove the logo. I'm sorry, remove the phrase, the art of building and down to science. Do you have any issue with that?
No?
So we're keeping the logo on this
Christine,
particular
have any
sign?
issue with the logo?
No, I don't.
I don't have, I think it's toned down.
Yeah, it's simple,
Yeah.
it's all monochromatic, so.
Just get rid of the phrase.
Right?
Any public comment on the application? Okay, so the approval will be based on the removal of the phrase.
Okay.
Any approval? Is there approval?
Pardon?
Is there an approval?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine. You want me to?
Motion.
Absolutely.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the contract to sign for Vital Habitats.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Final sign tonight is Catherine Fee, architect.
Yeah, I'm here on her behalf, too. It's the same job. It was a dual sign. We were told one had to be on top of the other one. Is that not the
Not
case?
necessarily.
Yeah, who told you that they had to?
Well, my office manager did, who I guess spoke to somebody at the
Adding it
village.
onto that sign?
So, in other words, you're trying to piggyback off of the sign we just approved?
Well, that's what we were told we needed to do, but we could do
It's
two
pretty
separate.
simple,
We
though.
could do two separate signs.
If you look at her sign, it's pretty straightforward.
I don't have an issue with the sign itself. The question is, I don't know why two applications had to be formed for the same sign.
They inevitably will most likely get into an argument during the construction.
So then it's on the post that is hanging on
Separated.
again?
Never.
Never?
Any issue? Right. Christine?
No, it's just my question, is it attached to the sign we just approved?
It's on top.
And
Yes.
Is that on a post and a,
Yes.
well, we already told the other person they couldn't have a post.
No, the decorative post that you were referring to.
Okay.
Decorative post with the panelization on the bottom and
Versus simple.
just the same.
I think it looks better when two are together, to be honest with you, so you don't have all these signs all over the front yard.
It's not littering the property.
Littering the property.
I agree.
Okay, without littering the property. Any public comments? Motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve Catherine Fee Architect's sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Concludes our sign permits for this evening. First application, historic.
Mr. Chair, first application is for Klein, 650 Meadow Lane, for 2 sets of driveway gates.
Is the applicant present? Calvin Klein, we had the same issue last time. Did we send a letter out to the applicant?
They were adjourned, that was what their request was until last meeting, this one's new. But it was February 13th last time, I think.
All right, can we get a letter out, just get verification on where we are in the process, so that we know whether we should continue to keep this open or take it off of our agenda? Motion
Had a
to,
request for an adjournment tonight?
no, that adjournment was for
There's
last
nothing
time.
Last
received.
meeting was covered through their letter.
Right, but there's been nothing for this evening.
They haven't
No.
come back with any alternatives.
Any alternatives? But the adjournment of last meeting was for this meeting, so this application, which
Right.
was just open,
Right.
needs to be closed. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn Calvin Klein at 650 Meadow Lane for 2 sets of driveway gates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next application.
Next application is Peter Sloan, 353 First Neck for driveway gates.
Is the applicant present? No one wants to show up for the gates.
Second call?
I don't know if it's necessary. Questions?
I'm fine with
we've seen
these.
this
The
before.
Transparency.
wood,
Didn't we
details,
see
not
this
lit.
last time?
No. We've seen a similar design, not for this applicant.
I'm
is
fine
good.
with it.
Okay. Any public comment on the application? Zach, anything further from you? It is in a historic district. Nothing further from the board?
No.
Motion to adjourn for a written decision by council.
I make a motion that we adjourn the application of Peter Sloan at 353 First Neck Lane for driveway gates for written decision by our council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next application, please.
Next application, driveway gates for John Pine, 451 Hill Street.
I showed up for the gate. Mike Sauter, foreman for County Gate Systems.
Mike, will there be any lanterns proposed for this?
No.
White gates,
Yep, white, steel cord.
spacing?
Spacing is 1.5 inch.
Are they electrical or manual?
They are automatic
Very cool.
electric.
Ham, questions?
Transparency is good, classic, and material is fine. No issues.
Christine?
I think they're lovely.
Brian?
I think it's fine.
Zach? Sorry?
Transparent, it's good.
4 inches.
Any public comment on the application? Anything further from the applicant? Motion to adjourn for a written decision. Let me explain how it works. I don't know if you've been here before, but
Yep.
the property is located in the historic district and therefore requires written decision for any decision that's rendered on an application. And therefore, we will at this time ask our consultant, or I'm sorry, our legal counsel to prepare that written decision at our next meeting.
Okay,
You don't necessarily have to be here. There's consensus of approval from the board.
okay.
Any questions?
Vote works.
Motion to adjourn for written decision by council.
Make a motion that we adjourn the application of John Pine, 451 Hill Street for driveway entry gates for written decision by our council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Concludes our historic applications for this evening. First application, non-historic.
Robert McGuire, 52 Layton Avenue, for construction of a dormer, existing garage and covenant pool house, and convert to pool house, I beg your pardon. Affidavit of posting, affidavit of mailing is complete.
Kevin Elliston.
Can you explain your project?
Excuse me.
You can proceed with your project.
Proceed.
Oh.
Don't go out and start building it. Can you
No.
tell us about your project?
Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to renovate an existing two-car garage into a pool house. Basically, we're going to just add a rear dormer to the back side, replace the windows, replace the siding, and all interior finishes.
Same trim, same color.
Same trim, same color.
Christine?
No, it looks fine.
Ham?
What's the age of this building?
That I don't know. If I were to venture a guess, I would say it's 1950s.
Okay. Still, it has a steel rod on the ridge?
Yes.
Supporting the second floor?
Yep.
Okay. I don't have any issues with this.
Brian, comments?
No, I think it's fine.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the application of Robert McGuire at 52 Layton Avenue for the dormer to the existing garage and the pool house.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Next application, please.
Next application is for a single-story, construct two-story dwelling, no accessory structures. Applicant is Sheehan and Salt House, 131 Post Lane.
Good evening, Robert Fischetti for the applicant, Bennett and Reed, 212 Windmill Lane, Southampton. We were here, as you know, on the 13th, proposing the demolition of construction of a single-story, or actually 1.5-story dwelling, and not in the historic district, as you know. All the proposed improvements comply with the code. What we did submit back before the 13th was a color rendering and elevations of the proposed single-story or 1.5-story dwelling, which incorporated poured concrete, cedar lintels, and some metal in the roof and the windows. We also submitted a landscape plan showing existing and proposed. We showed a streetscape, and we gave you some samples of the materials. The board's comments appear to be, or seem to be, most focused on the roof, which we did change quite a bit. An attorney for the applicant or the neighbor to the east, 121 Post, did appear, and they didn't have specific comments when we were here last time, but we did have a chance to speak to them since then. Their most significant concern seemed to be the roof as well. We gave them copies of the original plans and our updated things that we've sent you since then. At the last meeting, as you'll also recall, the historical consultant was asked his opinion. He thought that what we proposed was, in his words, profoundly traditional. He felt it was a modern version of a very traditional house. And what I thought most important was that he stressed the point that there's no need for it to, the house can fit into the feel of the neighborhood and the character of the neighborhood without being the same cookie cutter, same materials, same sort of absolute look as the rest of the block, and can still have the characteristics that fit well within the neighborhood. So since that meeting, we did take what was a metal roof and change it to wood cedar shingle, which I think makes a strong change to the look of the place, and I think gives it even more of a look that complements the look of the neighborhood. We did also provide, and we did submit revised elevations for that as well, and we did submit color renderings as well as elevations of the two accessory structures, which is an arbor and a screened porch. I think that.
Can you do us the board a favor and just swing that over to the camera?
Oh, sure.
So the camera can see your photos.
The screened porch was changed. The roof was changed from a sloped roof to a flat roof, and the height was changed from 16 feet to 12 feet. And we also reduced the height of the chimney. And the cabana, for the clarification, it's just an open arbor, which we proposed just next to the pool. We did have a chance. I did have a chance to speak to Linda Riley, the neighbor, the attorney for the neighbor. It appeared their biggest concerns were the roof, which, as we said, we have changed, and I think the change is consistent with other stucco houses in the neighborhood that have shingle roofs. And their other concern was screening on. This is us. This is the neighbor. Screening along the line between. I've spoken to my client about that, and they would be willing to record a deed restriction requiring them to maintain the hedge in perpetuity to maintain screening between us and the neighbor. That was the neighbor's concern. I understand it wasn't yours.
But when it comes to legal binding agreements between neighbors, especially when it comes to buffering, that's not something this board can. It's good to put on record.
I understand it's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement.
We tried to implement that as a way to address the
neighbor's included in your
concern.
landscape plan.
It's already the hedges already are there. What we're saying is we'll commit to maintaining them in perpetuity and not having the right to take them down.
Okay, we appreciate that, but you understand it's.
No, I understand it's not your. It's to address the neighbor's concerns. Really, the
Excuse me,
purpose of it.
could I see the building permit?
You have a question.
Yeah, Curtis, it's not an issue between a covenant between one neighbor and another. It's a covenant imposed by the village. So
Thank you.
it's a document recorded in the county center that binds that property owner based upon a commitment to the board to deal with the hedging. I think the issues are, though, that this owner can speak no more for the property than their their ownership. They don't want to commit themselves to a future owner, and it's just not a workable device for this kind of a matter because it's virtually impossible to monitor and enforce.
Okay.
There might be times in the future, I'm saying this because there might be times in the future where the board might want to consider something like this, but this wouldn't be one of them.
This would not be one.
I mean, my understanding would be if the neighbor was involved in the agreement as well, that she would have the ability to enforce it if the hedge wasn't maintained.
It's not a cemetery. Owners can change
That would be the case, Rob, but I don't think the board wants to.
No, I understand it's not a requirement. I'm saying we're trying to address as much of the
Yes,
neighbor's
yeah,
concerns as possible.
appreciate that.
But I think very, very clearly on the record, we indicated that this is not a requirement or a
understand.
binding between the agreement of any approval that may be granted on this property.
Understood.
That is 200.
That's really the changes that we've made. We hope that that has addressed your concerns. We were able to do it in a way that still keeps what we like about the house, and I hope that the board appreciates the changes that we did make.
Just going to pull and see if there's any public comment, and then we'll go to any board comments as well.
Yes, of course.
So any public comment, could you please step forward, and we ask that you please speak into the microphone.
Hi, I'm Catherine Courage Dietz, and I'm the neighbor that was referenced. I live at 121 Post Lane. We've been there in that house for 14 years.
Sorry, could you just speak into the microphone?
And into the microphone. We've been there for 14 years. I consider us very active participants in the community. And we've seen a lot on Post Lane. We went through the Ferrero house situation, and that was turned down. And we have most recently, directly across the street from us, 2 new houses. And in both cases, I looked at those plans, and even though I didn't love one of them, they were okay. They fit in. They were in keeping both with the village and with the street. I would make the point that Post Lane is a very small street. It's a dead-end street. It's unusual. It is not in the historic district, but the street, in fact, is right in the thick of it. And it's anchored at each end by 2 important village landmarks. One is the Colonial Cemetery, and the other is St. John's Church. So it's kind of an anomaly in that the street itself is not historic, but it's certainly in the thick of things. And it's always been a very pretty street. Each lot is about 1/3 of an acre. We've been here and active in the community since 1999. We care very much about the way the street looks, and we just don't feel that this fits in. I have searched hard and asked a couple of people I think are good at this kind of thing what they would do to change it. And one concession was the roof. I'm not sure that really makes a big difference. It is a small street. These are 1/3 of an acre lots, and to put something that is entirely not in keeping, just plop it down. I'm also very nervous about people that have not been a part of this community or the street for a long time. It's like a spec house. You come in, you don't know your neighbors, you don't really know the village, and you do what you want to do, which is not at all in keeping with what the rest of the street looks like. I think that the house is kind of interesting. I think that from my personal taste, the screen-in porch, which is not attached, looks more like a crypt and a cemetery. I think that the house itself would be terrific near a beach in California. But the size of the windows, the amount, the different, there's stucco, there's kind of some sort of a ridged thing. There's a lot of different building materials. I'm not quite sure what they achieve. And I understand that the architect of the party for the proposed house is trying to give us concessions, but I feel that his big selling point is, we'll keep the big hedge up. And that, what we'd like is an attractive house there that fits in, that enhances the neighborhood, where you don't have to worry about having a 25-foot hedge because what's behind it doesn't fit in. So anyway, I know a couple of the other neighbors have written letters, and I am not an architect. I'm not quite sure how you do fix it, but I am sort of seems to me that this is where the rubber meets the road for the ARB. It's very easy to take a historical house and decide what fits and what doesn't. And it's very easy to take something north of the highway with a lot of land where there's all sorts of things going on and say, hey, that's fine. But this is sort of the toughest job you've got, which is not historic, but really in the historic district, and it just doesn't fit in. And so, well, there you go.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Any additional comments? If you you have to step forward, sir.
Did you receive letters?
Sir, you have to step forward.
Thank you.
Those letters requested be read into record.
Yeah, I think Ms. Courage referenced that you'd received letters from other members of the street. Have you presented those to the board?
We have not as of yet.
Okay.
That would be our next round.
I'm also a neighbor on Post Lane, the fourth oldest resident of Post Lane, not age, but in terms of longevity. And I know when Ms. Courage bought the property, I was a listing broker in 1999. Her house is 17 feet from the property line 131. The proposed property house in 131 is 40 feet from her property line. There's a huge hedge that belongs to the property 131. That house is not visible from the street or from any neighbor. Speaking of materials, I checked out Ms. Courage's house, which is for sale as she's relocating, and it has 9 different building materials present from the street, not just from within your yard, but from the street, mostly from James Street as well. There's cedar shingle, there's board and batten, there are 2 different types of windows, aluminum clad windows, huge amount of asphalt roof hanging over the street. The proposed house is 2,500 square feet, I believe. I think the house could be over 3,500. It could be, because the lot's 125 feet wide, the house could be 35 feet tall, illuminating over the street. It's about 20 feet tall. Anyone's complaint with this house is absolutely beyond me. I know 4 neighbors on the street that said they sent emails in support of this application, and I hope you would review those as closely as you would a neighbor who will soon not be a neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Have those read.
Can you read?
Your name for the record,
Can
sir?
you come back here?
Benjamin McIntyre.
Do you have the spelling?
I got it.
You sure? You have additional comments?
I encourage
You have to you have to understand the
here.
reason why we have to speak into the microphone. It goes into our feed. So
I'm not.
I'm recording.
We are relocating over to Pheasant Pond. We're not leaving the village. That's the first thing. I didn't have to come here tonight, but I do care about the street and I do care about the village. The other thing is, if you drive down Post Lane, I'm not a builder, but there's no way you can't say our house is a traditional shingle-style house. We don't have an asphalt roof. Frankly, that's expensive. And it's only recently, with the 2 new houses across the street, that anybody had a shingled roof.
Any additional public comments? If you step forward, please.
Good evening. I'm actually David Sheehan. I'm the owner of 121. I just wanted to say 131. I can't even get my address right, so I guess I am new to the neighborhood. But it certainly isn't a spec house. We didn't come here for that reason. We came here because we actually love the neighborhood. We want to enrich this neighborhood, and we don't want to be disharmonious. We want to be harmonious within the community. That's why we respected what the board said the last time we were here. We tried to address that and bring a traditional home, which your consultant mentioned at the last hearing. I had the pleasure of actually watching it on videotape. I thought that was a very good thing that we were able to do that. And I saw what he had to say, and we feel that's what we've tried to achieve. We're trying to enrich the neighborhood, not be disharmonious. We're not trying to do anything that would be out of the way. We want to be here, not just for now, but for a long, long time. And that's why we designed this house. We love the house. We like to build this house. And we'd like you to approve it. Thank you.
Just for the record, so that everyone understands that, because I don't want this board doesn't want to get into the discussions over use. This board can't take in consideration use, meaning whether it's a primary home, secondary home, spec home. We take the design, the feature, the aesthetics, and what's the proposed construction as it is. So with regards to whether you use it as a spec home and sell it tomorrow, or if you were to use it as a second home or a primary home, it's irrelevant to this board.
As it is if you're moving from one side of the town
Neighbors.
to the other.
Yes. Any additional public comment before I get to the letters? Okay, if we can read the letters.
Okay, the first one is from Catherine Dietz, and it says, I am the adjacent neighbor, 121 Post Lane, of the application for a new residence at 131 Post Lane. I also own the lot at 111 Post Lane. Upon my preliminary review, I am not happy with the proposed architecture, materials, and overall aesthetic appeal. I request the board to take its time with the review of this application, as the proposed house could deeply and negatively impact the values of neighborhood properties and the aesthetics of Post Lane. Please keep the application open so that all neighbors will have the opportunity to finish their review and voice their concerns. Please take into consideration that the very recent snowstorm created an additional hardship in mine and my neighbor's ability to review the proposed plans. Okay, and then the next one here is from Pam Liptak, and that says, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Pam Liptak. I am the homeowner of 12 Post Lane. My apologies for not personally addressing the board. A scheduling conflict arose due to commitment made prior to the meeting of February 27, 2013. I would like to go on record as supporting the application of Mike Lynn Solhouse and David Sheehan, 131 Post Lane. Okay, the next one here is from B. Brooks McIntyre, and it says here, dear board members, I am writing about the pending application before you to build a new house at 131 Post Lane. First, may I state my knowledge and interest in this application. Having resided year-round at 2729 Post Lane since 1986, I am rather familiar with the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, I am currently the fourth most long-term owner on the street. There are only 18 properties designated with the Post Lane address, one of which is a flag lot spun of several decades ago by George Benedict from his South Main Street property. In addition, 2 James Street properties abut and are very visible from Post Lane. Historically, Post Lane has been a street of houses respecting the sky, space, and its proximity to the ocean. It did not boast oversized, overly ornate structures. Even the earlier houses built or moved here in 1930s by some of the most renowned families of this village were at most 1 and 1.5 stories. According to the verbal and written history I have from the first homeowners on the street, my house, a Californian contemporary, painted pink when built in the 1950s by a popular local teacher, was a huge amusement to the neighborhood. Thereafter, the street was completed with other one-level houses or cottages, some built by year-round residents and some by summer residents. In just the last 5 years, 40% of the homes on Post Lane have been sold, not counting twice, those which were resold during that time. Obviously, the integrity of the neighborhood is in peril. Apparently, it is considered perfectly acceptable for huge multi-story homes with detached garages and separate pool houses to be built on our small lots as long as they are shingled faux colonials. The owners of 131 Post Lane have submitted plans for your review. These plans are not for yet another spec McMansion, but an architecturally interesting small house for their personal use. I cannot fathom anyone living on Post Lane, nor anyone cognizant of the history of Post Lane, having a legitimate and partial reason to complain about the proposed plans for 131 Post Lane. Moreover, even if someone did not like the elevations of the proposed house, that would be completely moot. After all, the plans are for an approximate 18-foot tall house which will not be visible to the neighbors nor from the street. In conclusion, may I reassert my strong belief that the proposed development of the 131 Post Lane is exactly what is needed to help preserve the neighborhood. This has always been Post Lane, not Post Crossing. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on my behalf of the Post Lane that I know and love. And then the last one is from Michelle and Jeffrey Jacob. Dear members of the board, I am writing to express my grave concerns regarding the new structures being proposed for 131 Post Lane. As a longtime resident of Post Lane, I have both observed and participated in the architectural changes that have occurred over the past several years. The proposal of which I am writing is an alarming affront to the architectural tradition of our neighborhood and our village, and I strongly urge you to reject it in its current form. I am not speaking out as a casual bystander. Our family has lived across the street at 108 Post Lane for 12 years. We purchased our home in 2001 with the intention of tearing down the existing two-bedroom 50-year-old structure and building a larger modern home more suitable for our young growing family. During the planning and approval phase, we had several hearings before the ARB. As a result of the hearings and the concerns of our neighbors, we modified the style and significantly reduced the size and massing of our home. At the suggestion of the ARB, we modified the front section of our house to more closely resemble an American four-square design. In the end, we built a classic yet modest home in keeping with the historic architecture of Southampton Village. We are grateful for the board and its influence on the development of the village, as well as for the traditional style that guides its mission. While the style of the proposed structure is probably suitable in some contexts, it is clearly incongruous with both our historic village as well as the, I'm really sorry, I don't know what that word is. Thank you. Post Lane neighborhood. Several physical features of the proposal are of concern. The abundant use of glass, including the all-glass doors and walls, as well as the large windows relative to the size of the house, seem more appropriate for a commercial structure than for a home on our bucolic street. Also, the nearly exclusive use of unnatural materials, including the metal roofing, stucco facade, and poured concrete chimney, cannot be found in close proximity to Post Lane. I do compliment the architecture on the visually stunning porch and pergola. However, these structures seem more appropriate for a South Beach hotel or a Southern Californian home than for a traditional neighborhood. It is clear that the appearance of our neighborhood is in transition. As longtime residents of Post Lane who have also recently rebuilt our home, we have been active participants and beneficiaries of this change, and we do not argue to impede it. Rather, we wish to encourage its continuation in the same traditional comportment that the village residents and the Board of Historic Architectural Preservation and Architectural Review have worked so earnestly to ensure. Thank you for your careful consideration of this matter. That's it.
I'm sure you have
Yes.
rebuttals.
I would like to look at those others.
Okay.
I've heard a lot of generic talk from the neighbors about this house not fitting with the style of the neighborhood, which seems to contrast one of the people that have the most authority on that subject, which would be your historical consultant. And I noticed also that the letters don't, maybe with the exception of the last one, doesn't really get into any specificity of, is it the materials, is it the shape? I mean, I would argue the shape, and I think Zach agreed, the shaping of the two structures appearing next to each other is very much traditional, is very much in keeping with the traditional style that is out here. And if it was about the materials, and there was talk about the number of materials, I mean, we really have 3, which I don't think for a house is out of the ordinary, and I don't think that stucco is a material that you could call modern by any sense of the word. I know stucco became popular in the I believe 1920s or even earlier, and is located throughout the village. Herrick Road has perhaps 6 stucco houses. There are new stucco houses in various parts of the village. I did a lot of driving around this weekend, and I noticed that there's no real rhyme or reason. They are placed on very traditional blocks. I think this house has very traditional shapes and is, but for the stucco, a very traditional design as a whole. And I noticed some houses, Toilsome Place, 21 Toilsome Place was, the rest of the block is also traditional wood shingle, and 21 Toilsome is a traditional shape, but it's made of stone. There's a place, I think, further down on Toilsome Lane that is also surrounded by traditional wood shingle. This is a traditional shape, but of brick.
Thank you.
So I don't think that narrowing it to just the stucco material makes this house not traditional and not fitting with it, and I think the shape fits with it. So I think I'm having a hard time grasping what it is that the neighbors in particular, and of course we have to hear what the board has to say too, but what it is about this house that specifically that people feel does not fit with the neighborhood.
Okay. Brian, comments?
I think that I was really pleased to see that you changed the roof to wood shingles. I think that in itself goes a long way in softening this house and not making it look as contemporary as it was when it was a metal roof and then a black metal roof. In looking at your survey and going over and looking at the site, your renderings really don't show, because of the scale of your trees in it, how small a house this really is. I mean, it's a little jewel in there. And, you know, looking at those renderings, I think you're giving the impression that this thing's towering above the trees that are drawn there.
I see
And I
what you
think
mean.
that's giving people the wrong impression.
Right.
I think what you've done is really great. I really now, I love the wood roof because that's what people will see. The form, I think, fits right into the neighborhood. I think the pool house and the cabana are places where you should have fun and do something a little different. I think they're absolutely beautiful. So I'm all in favor of it.
Ham?
I appreciate, I've been on this board for 13 or 14 years, and we've met, the rubber's met the road on a lot of applications. I think this particular project is absolutely stunning. I like the roof. I think it's not a large house at all. When taking into consideration a lot of the houses that I have personally been fighting off in this village for 15 years or more, personally, and then as a board member. I like the materials. I like the style. I think we should encourage styles within areas of the village as they relate to lots. I think this is extremely well placed on this lot, and I think the buildings are very conservative for that street. I know that street very well. My kids grew up. I grew up right on Toilsome Place, or they grew up, I should say. I walk down the street every day. I'm very familiar. I don't think there's anyone here. By the way, I'm 56 years old. I think I'm the oldest person in this room that's been in that neighborhood. Maybe you, the only other one. And I think I'd like to see the village encourage. I know it's right on the edge of our historic area, but at the same time, I don't think the historic section of the village should be completely defined as having cookie-cutter style houses. I think there are exceptions. I think this is a wonderful addition to architecture in this village.
Because of the quality that
Quality
you
of
can
the
see, the quality of
detail.
materials, the quality of the detailing, the quality of the design, it's all good.
Christine?
I guess Brian and Hal have echoed my thoughts. I'm in favor of the application.
Anything further from the public? Because it seems like there's nothing I could say that would alter that.
I think Diane and I, can I just say one thing?
Of course.
Please,
Okay.
of course.
Maybe
If you could speak in again to the microphone.
Just because you do walk down Post Lane all the time, we would like to see that the height of the house stay as proposed. We are very concerned that 110 Post Lane is much taller than it's supposed to be. Have you seen that house? It's kind of a yellow shingle now. It looks really, really tall. So I guess what we're concerned about is that some of us looked at that plan, we thought the height was appropriate, and it changed. And I'm
Right.
just hoping this stays at the height that is proposed.
We can only approve the application as submitted. If there's any deviations in terms of measurement, if you feel that the proposed plan doesn't mimic what the final result, final home represents, that's the building department question. And that's something that you have to go to the building department to discuss. We can only approve what's being submitted before this board and the aesthetics of the building itself.
I
You have a
understand your
question?
concern.
I understand your concerns. We've had situations in the past where homes were larger than what was proposed. Again, we're not an enforcery board, so there's nothing we can do about that portion of it. We're just the board, an aesthetic board. They're representing the dimensions. They're representing and proposing to us the height of the building as well as what the aesthetics are, and we have to go under the conclusion that this is accurate and will be enforced by the building department. You have a
I
question?
can shed some light on that if you want. I designed the house at 96 Post Lane, which is the other new one that went up, and when
Oh, that's near Little Things.
no, right across the street from you,
Directly across the
one
street.
that's occupied.
one that's occupied, right?
Oh, that's not 96, that's a different number.
I think it's 120.
Oh, it's 120, sorry, I'm doing another house, at
Yeah,
96.
the one we're talking about is 110.
Right.
Should renumber this street.
No, it's 120 Post Lane is the house that I designed, and when the house next door, I guess it's 110, was going up, my client was very concerned about the height of the house, and they even thought it was too far forward on the block. And the building department sent an inspector out and checked everything, and it was fine. My house next to it is only at 31 feet, and you're allowed to be at 35, and theirs is at 34 or something. So it looks like it's much taller. And it is forward, but it's right at the front yard setback.
This house is 25 feet.
Your name, please, for the record.
Diane Nardone. I live at 141 Post Lane, which is the flagpole lot. I've been there since '97. I have no objection to what's being proposed for 131. I would like to make that clear. I do
With
think...
the changes that were made?
With the changes.
Right, okay.
I love the roof. I love the fact that it's only 2,500 square feet. I also love the fact that it's not too high. That was my primary concern. I love the house you built. I do not like 110. And I really don't understand, given the pyramid rule that we allegedly have, how that house got put up. If anything makes the street look, if there's any anomaly on the street, it's that house. That house just doesn't belong there. And I know that you really have nothing to do with it, but going forward, when houses go up on Post Lane, I really think, and maybe somebody did go out and look at it, but it just doesn't look right. And really, I know there's nothing to be done about it now, but the street has changed a lot. We keep going through one construction after the other, which is very hard on the people who live there. But I think this house, yes, it's modern, but I think it's going to be great as far as our property is concerned, because it's not going to overshadow us, and it will be small enough, and the height.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And the ridge height on this house, is with the changed cedar roof, is, just to confirm, is what?
While you're looking for that, someone had their hand up. You had another question. Please step forward.
It's 18 feet, right, Brian? Is the ridge, so if this is a 12-foot ceiling, we're 4 feet higher. The whole house is 4 feet taller than this ceiling. The house that you're talking about, which is 34 feet of a ridge, I don't know why you're shaking your head, is completely different.
I know, and I know they said they sent somebody out, but we're just not.
That's not, I think you can go and foil that, as the chair was saying, and check. That's the regulation of the building department and so forth. It's not something that I know it could be frustrating, but it may be, as Brian was saying, that the house is very forward to the street, so it increases that angle of attack, meaning of the pyramid itself. I can't speak to that, but this house, just looking at it, is extremely low.
18 feet.
I thought it was 25.
No, 18.
It's 18.
You're not
So
gonna
if this
see it.
ceiling is 12 feet, just for fun and not to annoy you, and another 4 feet, one a little taller, we're talking about a very, very
Could
conservative,
have been so much higher.
yeah. It could have been.
Could be 35.
Could have been
It could be
35 feet.
just under the law, the
Right,
proposed,
35, right?
yeah, up to 35,
Well, can I just then on process, I think what.
or twice the height
We love
almost.
the roof change, but if you approve it at 18, it stays that way, is that right?
No.
No, it doesn't? Let's talk
I mean,
about
the
this.
next, a next owner could come in and build a
Yes.
second
Yeah.
story and come
But
back to us.
This application
This
is approved
application.
for
Let's
18
let's
feet.
just discuss the process.
Okay, because we're,
The process, they propose a plan, and they propose that plan, obviously, taking out the application to the building department. The height and all dimensions of that plan are submitted to the building inspector. We received the plans with all of those calculations already, and it's all a part of the file. Nothing should change to the process at all. If it does, then that's something, again, the building inspector is going to have to delegate and regulate as well, to make sure that the applicant stays to the plan that he proposed, that he submitted, that he paid a building permit for, and that it abides by those measurements. If it does not, then it's the building inspector's responsibility to
And to add to that, there have been
Penalized.
addendums to a number of applications within the village that the building department has insisted upon. And generally, when there's a change of ownership that happens, somebody wants a larger or taller room. And that's not to mention, in a lot of areas, we have flood zones where unfortunately not that this is one of them.
That's when you're talking about,
when you're, you know, so
we go
there are
from
a lot of-
FEMA into, I mean,
You're in
that's
a
not the
FEMA,
situation.
and you have growth because of height that is mandated and so forth. So it's not simply a broad statement.
Can we just then just, look, you're the experts. This ridge thing says 25. Can I have something different than what you proposed? Because, what is this? It says ridge elevation 25, 5, and 5/8. What is that? When you're saying 18, I have these plans from you that say, I'm just worried about
Sure.
height.
25 feet.
It's 25 the chimney.
Oh, they're,
I would have noticed 18.
yeah,
That
one,
is-
I think one of the,
One peak is 18.
one peak is 18, one is 25, this one is 25. Still a full 10 feet, you know, lower than we have, but I think that's the confusion. It's
So
this-
these are different heights,
Yes,
Yeah.
and this one's 25, and this one is,
18.
And if the chimney is higher than 25, just so you know, there needs to be a distance between the actual roof, if you will, and the top of the chimney for fire, for code purposes. But I think with that chimney, it's at least 10 feet away from the ridge line and sits back.
I know that. Okay, that's
The-
25.
And the chimneys are not part of the height restrictions in the village, as are like built code doors, that sort of thing. Bert?
Hi, my name is Bert Meem. Actually, you've partly answered the question that I had about this house. Even though I don't technically live here, I've lived here for since 1980, owned property. If the subsequent owner of this house, however, does bring it up to 35 feet, that chimney is going to be how high? Because it looks like an air traffic control tower right now. And so you'll visually see this from St. John's Church, and it will, of course, impede the view of the owners of 121 Post Lane.
If that application, let's say the property changes hands, it's going to be a completely new application that would come in front of this board, and at that point, we would consider its height as a major issue, I would assume. We've looked at fireplaces all the time in terms of the material, previous meeting, in terms of their height and so forth, but in terms of this particular chimney, if you look at the ridge, there is a code requirement to have it at least 2 feet above the ridge and 10 feet away. But, Bert, if you look at the size of that chimney, and if you ask the applicant to scale it, I think you're looking at a drawing of, it's attached to an 18-foot building. The chimney, to me, if I was going to scale it roughly, I'd say, what is it, 25 feet?
If that.
If that. So if you look at a 30, not to jump around too much, but if you look at a 34-foot or 35-foot high house, generally the chimneys will go
37 feet.
another, 4 or 5 feet or so,
Can
depending on the weather.
we go under the understanding that this application is as such today? We can't take in consideration what an applicant or someone in the future may do down the road to
Exactly.
increase the size of the house. That application would have to be submitted, brought before this board again, and we have to take an evaluation based on all of those measures: height, any shadows that are cast, the visual impact, how the structure as proposed will fit in with the overall community. So all of that will be taken consideration at that application process, but that's not here before us today.
So theoretically, that could actually put a ceiling of sorts on the person who's actually purchasing and building this home right now. then.
This is what's being proposed.
Okay, thank you.
They could come in and argue, Bert, in 5 years from now that they can't stand the house, that there's something that they want to do, but it's a completely new view. Just because you've got something doesn't mean you can double it, treble it, and so forth. It's not a license.
Any further comments? Anything further from the board?
No.
Anything further from the applicant?
No other questions? Yes.
No, but I'm glad we established it was 25 feet.
The primary being 18.
Just let it go.
Primary being 25, the bigger part of the house is 25. It's fine, but I just, this is 18, this is 25.
Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the application of Sheehan and Salt House at 131 Post Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Final application for the evening.
Chair, final application is Jacqueline Eaton Garland, 118 Burnett Street, for a two-story family dwelling, pool house, and pergola.
Excuse me, we have an applicant standing before us. If we can just be courteous to the applicant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have staff plan.
Oh my. Carrying some heavy stuff.
Not even done yet.
It is.
Did you like that?
No. Brought the whole entire Riverhead Building Supply in.
There's no rabbit in there, is there?
Yes. I'll wait for the end for that. Hi. And I've just prepared some additional.
You're pretty confident about your approval. You've got your job sign all lined up and everything.
If you could hand them in so she can
Good.
stamp them.
And what is? No, no, it's just some additional
Okay,
information.
that's fine. I just need to stamp it.
Okay, and then I can hand it out.
I'll hand it out.
Oh, I need this one.
There's some copies and.
The previous file. The Sharon.
Are there small plans?
There are small plans. I was in the building department, I saw it.
You have mini sets that you put in?
I have floor plans. You have the exterior elevations, and I have additional floor plans for you.
Unless they're in there, I don't have any mini sets.
Okay, no, give me
We just
that.
need the elevations.
Okay, we have Sharon and we have Garland here.
Jacqueline Eaton. You got a mix.
Yeah, you gave me both of them. Put that baby there. There we go. That's okay.
You got everything in there?
You put this all in the file. Put that in that file, please.
Crypt. Just keep giving me stuff.
Well,
I got it.
that's yours.
Oh.
Okay, now you can proceed.
Thank you. My name's Pat O'Neill. I'm the architect for 118 Burnett. We're demolishing a single-story ranch-style home, mid-century, and we're proposing a two-story in looking at the neighborhood, the massing of houses, the vernacular architecture, really like the idea of a front porch, the gabled roofs, stepping the mass of the building away from the neighbors, and using traditional materials. A cedar perfection shingles for the siding, a cedar roof, painted trim, painted white trim, and I've prepared just a colored rendering too, if you'd like to take a look at that.
Okay.
And we prepared just a study model so that you can get a better idea of the massing and how the building really steps away from the street. The windows are simulated divided light windows. Trim is painted white. There's a small pool house with storage on the back in the rear of the house. And so we've made an effort to really match materials of other homes in the neighborhood. And I just prepared for you, again, just a list of the proposed exterior materials. It's noted on the drawings, but just to make it a little bit easier. We're proposing a privet hedge that basically lines the property, a pea gravel driveway, the front porch will be a New York State bluestone porch, and the patio in the rear, the pool patio, would be a bluestone patio.
The second story deck that's looks to be 10 feet from the adjacent property. That's accessible?
No, it's not. It's just a flat roof, and we have the railing just, again, just to add some interest and some, to make the house look like it has more of an evolved look to it. But it's not accessible. There's just two, let me step back. They are escape windows for New York State code for a bedroom, but it's not a terrace.
Okay. Why the choice in the stone for the chimney, just out of curiosity?
We just wanted to use a stone that would really just sort of mellow with the shingles, and we just felt that the stone was just a softer look.
Have you considered a brick?
20.
We did talk about brick, and we just felt that the stone, again, with the cedar, we just liked the way it looked.
Brian, any comments?
Are there any pictures of the neighborhood, of the street?
We did submit photographs. The street really has, an eclectic mixture of houses and styles and vocabulary.
Christine?
Orange, you have a weather vane, a little steeple.
A cupola. It's not on my model.
Is that gone?
No, it's still part of the application, but it actually sits right here on the roof.
I have to look at this more, but I'm very familiar with this neighborhood. This house is next door to that very little house.
Yes.
On the corner.
Across the street from this. There's sort of a grand aspect for this lot and that street, I feel. This whole
We're still under the lot coverage and the floor area, so we were sensitive to again, stepping the massing of the house away from the front yard setback and of course from the side yard. So we were sensitive to sort of breaking it down and adding the front porch. The house total is
32.6.
Yes.
Brian, anything for else?
I can understand what Christine is saying. I think the massing is great. I think I like the way you step things back. I'm just sort of looking at how grand the front of this is with the big arch-top window and things, and then the circular windows.
This is the house next door.
I know. Yeah. And then with the cupola on it, it's almost creating this tower on the street. And I'm sort of struggling with that a little bit.
And this chimney is stone, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really struggling with this because you are next door to not that this house necessarily will forever stay small,
Right.
but you're next door to a small picturesque house. This lot, I'm having difficulty visualizing a pergola and a pool house in that backyard. It seems so small. How big is your pool?
The pool is
We don't oversee pools, but I'm just trying to get an
12
idea
by
of the
23.
scale. Pardon?
12 feet by 23 feet.
So it's from those curtains to my hand and from you to there. It's really not even a lap pool.
Right.
Cupolas are not a part of this board's thing unless they're on a fixed cupola. This is what, one of those chickens that.
Doesn't it make it
It's
taller?
more of a weather, yeah, it's not illuminated,
You can
it's,
add that, take it off, add it, take it off. The real thing that I'm worried about, and I happen to agree with Brian on this one, two things. First of all, the fireplace is going nowhere in my mind, but the entry there's a lot going on there. Is that panelization that you have, or is it fenestration?
Panelization.
below,
Yeah.
those
And
are
up on-
panels.
And on the second floor as well?
The second floor is this panels and windows.
Okay. And the round top window is in there, and then you have patterned shingles. There's a lot going on there, and I'd like to see something be simplified a little bit. What's holding you up from bringing the ridge height down a couple of feet on this house?
A couple of feet.
Yeah. I know you're not at the legal maximum,
Correct.
but I do see your drawings on the pyramid and so forth, and you're well within the pyramid. But on the front, it looks like, almost like you want to do, and I'm not suggesting this at all, like a Dutch colonial or whatever, to flatten it out, not to have it pushed so far out in the street. But I think that would be a mistake as well. But you've got a lot going on. You've got sheds, hips, gables, all sort of intermixed. If you will, where the chimney is located, you have a shed roof attachment, which is an appendage, which is nice.
Right.
On the front, you have a porch that's got a little hip to it.
Mhm.
And then you've got this exaggerated double gables at the front, and then you've got, if you just tilt it this way a little bit, then you've got your little Dutch hip going on back there. So there's a lot going on with the roof here.
But we
which is
felt
not
that
bad.
we felt that that's what gave it interest rather than just sort of, coming straight up or having a roof that was so low pitched.
It's
that-
difficult with the size lots that we have in the village to create the volume of house that you wish to have and not make it look like a large sink box, singular wall design. So what you have is what you have, the accordion style front, middle, back, and trying to recess as much square footage in the rear as possible so that it doesn't give a grand look at the front of the building. I understand, it's what
Right,
we
I mean,
look at all the time.
Because, you could have this in the front of the house and just
Exactly.
this wall with a hip.
It's what we look at all the
that.
time. So we as a board have to try to measure that. But I understand you took away the grandness of the volume, but you replaced it with the grandness of a series of windows.
So you're more objecting to the center, to the,
I just think this
Well,
is so long.
the shingles that are patterned, that step back, that are submissive to the front, are actually projecting to me. And the circle top is projecting to me, is sticking out like a sore thumb. I'd like to see the chimney focused on, the front circle focused on, and really what's going on with the pattern shingles is you might want to repeat it or adjust it towards the front and reduce
when you say
the
the
circle.
pattern shingle, do
What
you
is he
mean?
talking about?
Repeated at the front table.
I'm talking about the repeated shingles. If you turn it this way, there, you can only really see that if you're looking at it from an odd angle. It's not proactive in the design. Do you know what I'm saying, Brian?
But you do see that from
But you
all
do see
angles
from
on
all
that
angles,
street.
yeah. But if you're saying repeat the then you're, with that and the
Well, so you
windows, it just
repeat
looks.
it's just a lot going on there, that's all.
I'm sorry, you're when you say the pattern shingles, you mean, are you referring to the diamond pattern?
The diamonds.
Okay, yes, okay.
I think that's all you've got. I
Yes,
don't think they're
that's it.
scallops,
Everything
they
else
look
is,
like diamonds.
everything
yeah.
else is a perfection.
So, I think you've done a great job in staggering it back, but again, the chimney is really throwing me off. It just does not look right at all.
It's
And the material, to me, would be much more in keeping if it were a brick or a material that's more within the vernacular.
Stone. Do you mind the stone? I don't mind the stone too.
I mind the stone.
You do, Brian?
Is this a real chimney? Is it a masonry
No,
fireplace?
it's a zero clearance fireplace, so
fireplace.
it's a direct vent, and we.
You don't
we
need to
just-
be 10 feet away from the house,
Exactly,
right?
yes. But we did feel that it needed some kind of an element on this part, rather than just having, the vent sticking out of the side of the house and trying to, camouflage it that way.
It looks a little short.
It really looks odd.
Whether the chimney is functional by traditional standards or not,
Mhm.
it seems as if it's not
Stubby.
tall enough.
Well, we did, in one of the studies, it was taller, and it just felt like it was looming over, there is a cricket behind it too.
Right.
And it did sort of look like, when we did have it taller, that it was, sort of towering over this mass, and then trying to connect the two masses, it was just becoming
Well, again,
too complicated.
fireplaces are not under the purview of the pyramid law. Okay? They're not, their projection through the air, or through the air, the plane of the pyramid law are not a part of, in other words, they're excluded from that.
Understand?
So that's why earlier when I was looking at that chimney, it was actually rather conservative on that house,
this is the wrong
although
one.
on
Yes.
the
Oh, that's the
elevation,
wrong
it
one.
sort of looked like a tall pipe. What I'm saying on this, you've got the exact opposite effect. This is not as issued chimney than it is a functional one. I'd like to see you come back with a chimney that's more in keeping with that style of the house. And also something that's more of the nature of Southampton, which is generally brick or stucco or in some form rather than an applique of stone, particularly when it's not native stone. And as far as the entry, the circle window is sticking out, and the pattern shingle, there's something up there that's just making it too forced to make it look, it's been added on. It looks artificial. The rest of the project, I don't have any issues with.
Brian, anything further?
No.
Christine?
No, I mean, I feel like, I just want to reiterate that I feel that the aspect of the design of this house is sort of ostentatious in presentation, because it's got so much going on. And this is one of the loveliest little hidden streets in the village. You know, a lot of people don't even know where Burnett Street is. One way, and it's going to go through a lot of changes over the years. It will be gentrified. And this is an opportunity to create something. The house that's there is definitely an eyesore, something that will complement the street. And I think there's just, between the stone chimney and the cupola and the big curved windows and everything, it's just too much.
Are you objecting to the projection of this bay? I understand what you're saying about the archtop window, but it's not the projection of the bay or the panels, the panel element, the painted panel element.
I understand you're trying to break it up.
Yeah.
But what I'm looking at is that it appears as if it's a tower and it's very forced. And I think you've tried to hide that forcedness with the breaking up of the fenestration, the panelization. It's just not quite working. So if you were able to, just for curiosity, are you able to take that front piece so it's lower, as an example?
Take this front piece
Yeah.
lower.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I have to study it.
Brian, you were saying your major issue is the round top window going over what is
It's
would
the whole
commonly
fenestration,
called the
yeah.
whole fenestration thing.
Of this projection.
It looks
It's just too
very
grand,
busy.
and it's a little charming little street,
It's a lot of stuff going on.
Anything further? Do you have any questions of the board?
Just to say, so it's the chimney for me, and it's the front needs to be slightly reworked, if you will. The roof pitches themselves are
Brian, I don't
fine.
think you ever answered. You had a problem with the brick? I'm sorry, with the stone?
Yeah. No, I don't have a problem with the stone as much as I have a problem with the chimney. It looks like something you'd see in an outdoor pool house or something with the pergola, really.
So if we eliminated the chimney completely,
That
because
would
we
be
don't
great.
need
That
it,
would be
then-
great.
so if
That
we
would
made
be
it go
great.
away completely,
Then
then
it's
it
a
would-
nice little clean shed, simple.
Pretty.
Understand?
And then as far as the circle, if you continued that band across the fenestration, that would then break your gable off, correct?
Yes, if we didn't have the
Yeah.
half round, and if,
Would be an alternate.
Understood.
Something that you would simplify it. Curtis?
I have a question that might come from ignorance. Are you saying that you can add a cupola at will?
A decorative, not a cupola, but a decorative weather vane, yes. Yeah, a cupola like what's on Town
I mean,
Hall.
even if it adds height to the,
A cupola like on Town Hall, a true cupola, which you have access to through a hatch or some other means, that's something that I believe is included in your overall height and it is included, but when you have a weather vane, it's definitely not.
it's a little bit more than a weather vane.
Sorry?
It looks like a little bit more than a weather vane, but
Is it?
It's a, it's a Walpole, cupola / weather vane.
Is it about 2 feet tall or less?
It's less than 2 feet.
Does it penetrate the roof? And
No, it sits
the
on top of the
windows
roof and
bring
it's
light down?
flashed in.
It sits in a
So it's-
holder and just spins
it's
around with the
decorative.
wind.
it's like they have in Watermill at Walpole.
It just,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a Walpole, right.
Yeah.
what is it?
Where is it? It's probably in the trunk of the car.
It's okay. It's okay. Any public comment?
Good.
Step forward, please. Be careful.
My name is Richard Kearns and I live on Burnett Street. And I find this proposal just completely out of place and incongruous with the architecture that is on Burnett Street. Burnett Street is a small street. The houses were built over all in the last decade. They're all vernacular buildings, but there's a variety of styles, all reflecting sort of the decade in which they were built. There are a couple 4 squares. There's the little house that's, I guess, a sort of bungalow style. There's a bungalow style across the street. There's a house that was probably in a farm building at one time, is now made into a house. There's the ranch house that they're tearing down. There's a cape right next to this house that it used to be very attractive. The latest additions make it less so, but a typical sort of 50s house. And there's a larger church building on the end of the street. To kind of put the building into context, I took photographs of the buildings and reproduced them to the scale, to the same scale as the quarter scale that this building is in it. I think it's unfortunate that the board doesn't require applicants to at least draw, the outline of the buildings that are going to be immediately
Streetscape.
next to it. I don't
We
see
have.
how you
We
can
do.
possibly
We do, in cases.
Well, I think this should be required of this applicant because, it's hard, these look heavier and more massive because they're photographs than a line drawing. But I wanted to just show you this. And you can see, first off, well, I won't get into the architecture first. I'll get into just the massing of the building. There's a strong, this building has, I understand the massiveness that the present zoning code allows, the overbuilding on small lots is unfortunate, and it isn't your concern. But it is a concern, I mean, it's a design consideration to try and reduce the massing and that is there. And what they've done here is to try and break the massing up with verticals. And so this building has a strong vertical emphasis with these bays and these pointed gables coming out. It's very complex. All the other buildings on the street are very simple, just normal gables. Most of them are just gables. There are a couple of pyramidal hips on the 4 squares, and they're simple shed dormers on most of the houses. Just have simple shed dormers, and there's a strong horizontality to the houses. And it's interesting because the house further down the street, the Consigliere's house, which is the oldest house on the street, I understand, is a gambrel-roofed colonial revival house. And it is, it's about the same square footage as this house. But it doesn't look as big because it doesn't have all this verticality. and it has these strong horizontal lines of the cornice here and the cornice above, and the height is lower. And of course, it does, a lot of the residents on our street, a lot of people are concerned about this building. And there has been, we all wonder how it really is within the code, because when you have attics this tall, I think under the code, they have to be included in the square footage of the house. And, you know, we just assume that the buildings department checks these things, but you know, what happened on Woolley Street, we thought they had checked all that, and so we really, you know, and as we understand it, you have to have the pool has to be included in the square footage. Yeah. I was told that by a former trustee.
Lot coverage, yes.
Yeah.
The house.
I was told, okay, because as I understand it, this can only be about 2,400 square feet, is the way I calculated.
Mhm.
But, so then architecturally, I mean, to get into the architecture of this thing, I mean, I would hope we wouldn't get into these kind of details, because I think it's so bad now that you know, I hate to waste anybody's time with a lot of little things, but first of all, do you want me to tell you what I don't like about it? Okay. And just to the massing and the height and the mass and all that, I have a problem with. It would be the architectural detailing. It's all, I mean, this village seems to be, you know, in a time warp of colonial revivalism. You know, first of all, no colonial houses, to my knowledge, in Southampton ever had a Venetian or a Palladian window. They were introduced by Stanford White in the, you know, in the late 19th century with the Shinnecock Club, and then other people like Bottomley use them. And if any, the closest thing I can see in our neighborhood that this building resembles is Town Hall by Bottomley, because it has many, you know, it has a lantern. This is more than a wind, just a weather vane to me. This is a lantern. This is a Venetian or a Palladian window, the Œil de Bœuf. I mean, it's all very elaborate millwork, beautiful millwork that you see, you know, in these newer developments. The Farrell brothers, you know, keep these places going. But we don't have anything like that on our street. We do have the Town Hall by Bottomley, which is a monumental building and a lovely building, but it doesn't really relate to our street at all. And it doesn't really relate to any building. If you think, our neighborhood is sort of, you know, it has boundaries really. It has Little Plains, and it has Meeting House, and it has Main Street almost, because Walnut is very sort of connected to our, you know,
Pine
seems
Street.
like our street is that.
Pine Street.
Pine Street.
Pine might be the other defining border. And all those houses in that area are just vernacular. You know, they don't have Venetian windows. They don't have elaborate millwork. They don't have Œil de Bœuf. They don't have all these, you know, and they don't have all this, now that Walpole is reproducing all these kinds of things. They just don't have that. And, but they do have some larger buildings, and I think those buildings, and also, yeah, the stone is, Norman Jaffe used the stone on the beach, and I even think those look sort of strange, all the stone, but we don't have any stone chimneys in the.
They're actually requesting to remove the chimney altogether.
Yeah, but well, that hasn't I mean, I hope that will not help this application. There's so much wrong with this application. But I have looked at some buildings around. Not far away is a large building on Walnut Street, but it almost seems like it's on our street too. This was probably a barn or something. But you can see how simple the architecture is. There's really, it's just plain and simple, and it works. And then over on Meeting House, this is a new building, and when it was going up, I really thought, well, in fact, people commented, they said, oh, that looks like a window salesman's sampler of windows and things. It had, you know, it had kind of a lot going on, but when you look at it, really, the window-to-wall ratio is, you know, wonderful. It's very fitting in with early architecture of Southampton without imitating it, because it's a lot of wall and not a lot of window. This is the opposite, a lot of window and not a lot of wall. and it doesn't have a lot of fancy millwork, and it's just a simple plain building within the pyramid law, but pretty much taking up getting as much. It's a spec house, getting as much square footage as they can get. But if you walk along the street, now that it's there, and no fancy columns, just chamfered posts, and no fancy architecture, it has all the windows at least have the real muttons, not the fake ones that are just snap in. And it really isn't as, if you look at it from an architectural standpoint, it's not a great building by any means, but it blends in, it doesn't stick out. This is going to stick out. This reminds me of, of like all these houses are just casual people having a picnic or a barbecue, and then suddenly somebody crashes the party. She's an overweight lady, overdressed individual. No, but I mean, it's just totally out of place.
I understand, but we just don't want to get crass with our explanations. But,
well, I just wanted to use an analogy that maybe wasn't just totally about details of architecture, but this is just totally, to me, out of place on our street.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything further from the board? There's some. I don't know if you have any questions as to some of the challenges of the board, or were you able to ascertain what this board has challenged with the application?
No, I understand. So, what is the process? Can I revise and resubmit?
Well, what we're going to do right now is, it doesn't seem that you have the votes for a favorable decision this evening, so you can request this board to adjourn until the next meeting, giving you and preparing you enough time to come back with a revised plan, which is more in keeping with what we consider to be favorable in the village of Southampton. Are you requesting this board to adjourn?
Yes, please.
Excuse me, may I speak?
Yes, you can.
I'm sorry.
Of course.
Hi. I'm Jackie Eaton Garland. I'm the owner of 118 Burnett Street, the fat lady crashing the party. I don't know how many times you get insulted in like 15 minutes here, but I just would like to say that it's a little hard to digest knowing what's sitting on the property right now. I don't know if somebody thought they were going to come in with some like wood bondo and put a coat of paint on the property and that would rectify whatever's going on there. I understand there's an eclectic mix on the block. We were trying to create something of interest. I wasn't trying to, be obnoxious or overbearing, but we are within the code with regard to the zoning with all our calculations. And, I understand what exists there now, but as you know, and you have meetings twice a month, people that are renovating or buying or redoing, and certainly in this case, I would think this is a huge improvement to the neighborhood, considering what's there right now. I did, just a couple things with regard to your mission, which is, to approve things that aren't too similar or dissimilar, or devalue the properties in the neighborhood, which I certainly.
Okay. I have to correct your comment.
Okay.
My job has nothing to do with the value of homes in the village.
It didn't say that on your kind of like your mission statement,
Our responsibility is to outside of the historic district. Let's remove ourselves from the historic district.
Right.
Our responsibility is to review our applications, and we're looking at areas that are for design, aesthetics, color, to make sure that whatever the proposed project ties into the community, it's harmonious to the community. There's not creating any privacy issues. The finished elevation is not going to create any shadows or looming features to the neighbors, which can obviously impede on their
quality of life.
Quality of life, exactly. So it has nothing to do with value.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know if I meant value in terms of a dollar amount, but kind of bring down the neighborhood or whatever.
Harmonious.
Harmonious, that's a good word. I like that word. All right.
And we understand the applicant, your challenges, We understand that the neighbors' challenges and some,
Mhm.
we take all of it into consideration and we try to render a decision, which
Right.
is, but we understand you have the right to build the home based
It's
on.
not a- we're not a
Let me
community
finish.
complaint board.
Right, right,
Based on the envelope that's prepared before the Village of Southampton.
right.
When you come here with the assumption that you fit within that pyramid law
Mhm,
building
right,
footprint and
right.
so forth, until someone tells us otherwise,
Right.
which would be the building department.
Exactly.
Because they're the enforcer report. Okay.
Right. Mhm.
So I just want to make sure you understood that our process as well as our responsibility. We take in consideration, but
Mhm.
we don't look over the entire neighbor's objective and make that your
Right, right, I understand. Okay, so,
I think we're all in agreement that what's there
Yeah.
is an eyesore.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're tearing it down and building something else will
Mhm.
improve the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And we're trying to make suggestions that
Right.
we feel fit within our criteria.
Okay.
To create harmony.
right.
So,
Okay,
So
points well taken, we'll go back and,
And to be specific, we've addressed some we made a lot of progress tonight.
Yeah.
We've addressed the fireplace or the chimney that's either going to be redirected or eliminated.
right,
I think, Brian, you pointed out the circle window and the fenestration in general. I think we've talked about at length, that you're going to revisit the
Mhm.
entrance fenestration, as well as some of the details that are.
The comments
we
were
discussed.
details. They were not changing, reconfiguring, or removing
right,
any
right.
square footage
No,
from
I,
it.
I heard, yeah, no, I understand.
Okay.
And we
It's a
really did try to take into consideration everything and, so,
Thank you.
thank you.
So you're requesting the board to adjourn at this time, so you can prepare yourself?
Yes.
All right. Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn.
I make a motion that we approve the applicant Jacqueline Eaton Garland's request to adjourn to our next meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We had minutes from January 23rd. Who's present? Okay. Everyone had the opportunity to review. Questions, comments, concerns, errors, or omissions? Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the January 23rd, is it?
Yes.
Second.
January 6th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And February 13th? Okay, of the three of us. Any questions, issues, challenges?
No.
Had the opportunity to review? Motion to approve the minutes from February 13th.
I make a motion we approve the minutes from February 13th, 2012.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And motion to close February 27, 2013, meeting of the Architectural Board of Review.
I make a motion that we close the meeting, the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation's meeting for February 27th, 2013.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a good evening.